routine patrol uncovers something sinister lurking in the woods. When I joined the park ranger team 2 years ago, I didn't think I'd be spending my days on the edge of sanity, staring out into the vast wilderness and wondering if the world really was as quiet as it seemed. It's a job that looks peaceful on the surface. Long walks through forests, checking trails, keeping an eye out for fires, and maintaining the serenity of the place. But there are things in the forest, things you can't explain, and they only seem to get worse the deeper you go. This is what happened to me. It started with a simple night patrol. I was assigned to a remote, little-used area of the park, a patch of woods most rangers avoid because it's hard to get to, and honestly, it's a little too close to the old abandoned campgrounds. The stories about that area were always the same. Strange sounds, lost hikers, sudden drops in temperature that didn't match the weather, and the feeling of being watched. The kind of stories that you brush off until something happens that you can't explain. It was supposed to be a routine shift. Check the trails, ensure no one set up camp in the restricted zone, and report back every hour via walkie-talkie. The walkie was my lifeline out there. The static crackled when the battery was low, and sometimes if you were far enough into the woods, the signal would drop entirely. But that night, it was just me and the trees. Nothing out of the ordinary. Until I heard the first strange sound. At first it was faint, almost like the wind rustling through the leaves. But there was something off about it. Something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It wasn't the usual wind sound. It felt almost deliberate, like someone was walking through the underbrush but not trying to hide their footsteps. I paused and listened, trying to hear anything that might explain the odd noise, but the forest was eerily silent. A moment later, I heard it again, closer this time. My heart began to beat faster. It wasn't an animal, not with that rhythm. It was too steady, too human. I checked my walkie-talkie to see if anyone was on the other end. Ranger 47 to base, do you copy? Static. Ranger 47 to base, over. I tried again, my voice more urgent now. Still nothing. The radio just emitted a harsh, buzzing noise, then fell silent. The hairs on my neck were now fully standing at attention. My instincts told me to move, to get out of there. But I didn't want to risk drawing attention. If something or someone was out there, the last thing I wanted was to show that I was scared. I slowly began walking, keeping my eyes on the tree line as the footsteps behind me continued. The sounds grew louder, quicker, as if someone or something was following me. My hands trembled as I gripped my flashlight tighter, the beam sweeping back and forth. Then there it was, a glimpse, a shadow flitting between the trees. It wasn't human. I couldn't describe it. The movement was too erratic, like something trying to stay out of sight but not quite managing it. I stopped dead in my tracks, and for a few seconds, everything was still. No footsteps, no movement, just the sound of my own breathing, harsh and fast in the cold air. Ranger 47, do you copy? The voice came through the walkie-talkie, startling me. It was a voice I didn't recognize. Not my supervisor, not another ranger, but it was clear as day. Ranger 47, do you copy? The voice repeated. It sounded like it was trying to speak through a veil of static. The voice was distant and faded, but unmistakably human. I pressed the button to speak into the walkie. This is Ranger 47. Who is this? There was a long pause, the static growing louder before a single word came through. Run. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled again. Who was this? How did they know I was out here? How could they have known what was happening? My heart raced. I didn't have time to figure it out. I turned on my heel and ran, the flashlight beam cutting through the dark, bouncing off the trees around me. I could hear the footsteps again, but this time they were ahead of me, moving faster than I could ever hope to. Something or someone was closing in. Ranger 47, do you copy? The voice came through again, calm, almost like a whisper now. Where are you? I gasped into the radio, breathless as I stumbled over roots and rocks. The voice didn't answer right away. Then, just as I was about to reach the clearing, it came again, but this time it wasn't a command. It's too late, the voice said, soft and chilling. You're not alone anymore. I looked around, every tree seeming to hide something, every shadow now a potential threat. The footsteps that had been following me earlier were now in front of me, coming closer with each passing second. I felt a presence, something intangible but overwhelming, standing just beyond the edge of the flashlight's reach. And then the radio went silent. No static, no voices, just silence. For the first time that night, I allowed myself to look over my shoulder. There, standing at the edge of the trees, was a figure. Tall, too tall and covered in shadows. Its eyes shone, no, glowed, faintly like two faint red embers in the dark. I didn't wait to find out what happened next. I turned and ran, crashing through the woods, not daring to look back again. I made it back to base just as dawn began to break, but the figure stayed with me. It's been days since I last went on patrol, but the voice still echoes in my mind. I don't know who or what was on the other end of that walkie-talkie, but I don't think I'll ever be the same. I tried going back out there yesterday, hoping to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my mind. But when I reached the spot where I had heard the voice, the walkie-talkie crackled to life once again. This time the message was clear. You didn't listen. Now you're one of us. I haven't gone back to work since. The forest has its secrets, and I think I've learned enough of them. But if you're ever out there and you hear a voice on the walkie-talkie telling you to run, don't wait. Don't even hesitate, because the next time you hear it, you might not make it back.